My name is Loretta Herring, and I am an advocate for cancer patients. The organization I represent is Cancer Awareness Network, and that program actually started back in 1997. My mother was diagnosed with cancer, and my sisters and I were devastated. We didn't know how to deal with that. And so we started our own nonprofit because we couldn't find the type of information we needed. Back in 97, there was not a lot of talk about cancer. They were still calling it the big C. And so she had lung cancer. And so from that, we were so devastated, searching for answers. We created our own nonprofit. It's called Cancer Awareness Network.
What do you think is lacking right now in terms of communication, effective communication between the patient and the provider?
Okay, very good. Good question. When I think about breaking those barriers, dealing with cancer and the type of services that's being offered in the community, one of the main problems or challenges, I should say, we have is trying to identify and encourage, not so much identify, but to encourage our people to become self-advocates. And I say that because a lot of times we don't understand all the dynamics around cancer. Good example, one lady that I was working with, she got cancer, and breast cancer, and she said, and I said, what type? She didn't know what type, she didn't know what stage. And so when we hear the word cancer, we know there's, because we're in the community of it, we know there's different levels, subtypes, but the normal, average, everyday person don't understand that. And so I think the key for us as advocates is to, and the community, is to educate. So I think education is the key, because we still have those barriers that we're facing, and I think it's only because we haven't received the type of education we need around the subject that we're dealing with, especially when it comes to cancer in the African American community. We don't see a lot of healthcare providers or scientists or researchers including that population in developing the cures that we have. I participate in the different ones because of my work that I do, but I see so many times that people in our community don't even understand the lingo or the jargon around cancer. And so that presents a challenge for them. We still got this fear of not trusting the medical community. That's another barrier that I see that we've got to overcome. Not that those things did not happen in the past, but at some point we need to say, okay, we know it happened, but how do we move forward from here? Not to lose what happened, but to be able to overcome what happened and still end up being more involved and more educated about our own health.
Can you talk to what barrier-breaking communication is to overcome some of these challenges?
Okay, I think one of the things we need to do as a barrier-breaking communication tool is to be on the ground with the people, talking to them. I mentioned to you about the workshops. We do those workshops, and one of the large churches in our community we did a workshop at their church, and the pastor of the church had never told the congregation he had prostate cancer until we did that workshop. And he got up and he said, I have to admit something to my congregation. I never told y'all I had prostate cancer. And so we know that if you start talking about it, communicating, telling the story, it empowers so many other people around you. And I think we're lacking that. You know, there was a time when the only communication we had was storytelling, right? We don't do that enough now. Even in our family, we don't do it. When you talk about the hereditary cancers, you talk about cancer history, any type of history in your family, we don't really know what grandmother died with or granddaddy died with. And so we need to start having those conversations with family members, and not only with family members, those extended family members and other people in our circle, so that when we're faced with these issues, we can handle them better. Because we remember, okay, grandma had this, and this is how she handled it. So I got a better chance of handling mine, right? Because I got this model, somebody I can look up to. And so those are the kinds of things that we need to start doing more of in our community. How do we communicate our values to our providers? There are so many cultural differences in our society when it comes to the racial barriers that we are faced with. And I think that because if we don't speak up for ourselves, we're stuck in that place, right? And so I do encourage people to ask questions. Write them down before you get to the doctor. Make sure you have everything written down so that when you ask the question, you get the answer. If they don't answer you, or if they answer you above your head, I tell people, write the answer down. And if they're going too fast, say, slow down. I don't understand what you're saying. And then the other thing I tell people is tell the doctor, spell that for me. And then you write it down just like they said. And then when they do that, I'll say, okay, well, you come back and let me know what they said, and then I'll translate it that way. So we got all these different tools that we can use to help get past some of the barriers. It's just a matter of encouraging people to use them to help themselves. Because I've been faced with the similar type barriers because of my race. And so what I have to understand is that even though there are people in our society who are not sensitive to our culture and our needs, then that I'd like to look at it as their problem and not my problem. And so I don't put a lot of energy into that. I just move on to the next situation that is going to be more reflective of what I'm trying to achieve.
Miss Loretta, this has been so wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.